we are at the top of the hour. So welcome everyone to this first episode of the Techtonic Shifts of the Volunteer Surveyors Program. You're welcome to our first episode. I think you might be wondering why Techtonic Shifts and what exactly is happening with this and why the weird and catchy name. But don't worry, brace yourself for some interesting trends within the surveying and geometric spaces that we're going to look at with this episode, our first episode. The Techtonic Shift is actually a series of events. Thank you. The Techtonic Shift is actually a series of events that we're going to look at a getaway to modern tools and technologies within geomatics. So we're looking at the forefront of surveying innovation in this dynamic landscape of modern technology. The field of surveying and geomatics is undergoing a profound transformation. So gone are the days of relying solely on traditional methods and instruments. Today, we stand on the cusp of a new era, which is characterized by an area of cutting-edge tools, software, and techniques that promise to revolutionize the way we approach our industry. So now the concept of tectonic shifts is one that encompasses emphasis on the need for young surveyors, for young geometricians, for even seasoned surveyors to adapt and embrace in the latest advancement in their profession. We are no longer confined to manual measurements and cumbersome processes. Today's geometricians have access to an arsenal of tools and software that streamline workflows, enhance accuracy, and unlock new possibilities. So we are embracing these new technologies. We're working and partnering with different organizations that provide tools, platforms, and technologies that we use in our everyday work as geometricians and surveyors. So we're trying to partner with them and try to bring them to their space so that they talk about these technologies to us as the people who are using their systems. So for our first session today, we're going to hear from Esri, which is one of the greatest partners within the geospatial spaces. And they're also going to do the same and talk about how they talk about a couple of things that we will get. They're going to share. I'm not going to spoil their agenda, so I'm going to leave that to them. So let's say this session particularly is open to young surveyors, to geospatial professionals, to AI specialists and technologists, to registered cadastral, land surveyors, to engineering surveyors, geodetic surveyors, mine surveyors, students and educators within the geometric spaces, employers, industrial professionals within and around geospatial organizations. So embrace yourself and please for fun event. Thank you so much. Before we get started, I'm also going to share that this is an open space, a professional space also. We're going to have, like you have seen, a number of people from different countries. So it is important for us to trade respectfully and well, and also try to maintain and be kind to each other and try to make sure we keep it within the professional spaces. If we're going to do anything that is outside those spaces, I don't think it will be a bad thing if it is just within the professional lines. So feel free to network, feel free to talk to each other, feel free to form partnerships from this event, but make sure you are making the next person is safe. Please mute your mic, and or you're free to share your video, but please mute your mic during the session. We're going to have a question and answer session at the end, so you have that time to ask questions. So please listen attentively, and if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to type them in the chat. But later on, before we close, we're going to have an interactive question and answer session. So please, you're welcome and feel comfortable. So moving next to our next item on the agenda, we're going to have an introduction about the VCSP, or the FIG Young Surveyors Network, from one of our co-leads, who is Angela Anyakora. So I'm going to hand over this time to Angela. Angela, over to you.
Thank you very much, Letwin. Thank you very much for the introduction. As Letwin has mentioned, I'm Angela Anyakora. I am the co-lead for the VCSP, and I'm also the vice chair technical for the Young Surveyors Network, for the FIG Young Surveyors Network. So good morning, good afternoon rather. So on behalf of the volunteer community surveyors, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this edition of our Wisdoms Workshop series. As Litwin has highlighted, Now, this session embracing Techtonic Shifts in surveying, which is a gateway to modern tools and techniques. It's part of our effort to prepare surveyors, especially young professionals, for the fast-changing landscape of our profession. Why are we here today? Now, the surveying profession is experiencing what I would like to call tectonic shifts. The rise of AI, UAVs, LiDAR, with GIS integrations, and cloud geospatial platforms. Obviously, new workflows where data is collected faster, analyzed smarter, and applied across disciplines like land administration, urban planning, climate resilience, environmental monitoring, you just name it. But with these opportunities also comes the challenge. How do we ensure surveyors, young professionals, geospatial analysts, especially the younger generation, are equipped and confident to use these tools? That's where YSN, FIG YSN, and the Volunteer Surveyors Community Program comes in. Now, I'd like to share a bit about the Young Surveyors Network, the FIG Young Surveyors Network to be specific. It's a global platform connecting early career surveyors, students, and young professionals. Now, that's within the age of 13 to, I say 13, 35, that's 18, 35 above. So basically, we focused on capacity building, leadership development, and creating pathways for young voices in shaping the future of surveying. YSN is also where many surveyors first get hands-on experience with modern tools through workshops like these, training camps, mentorship initiatives, which we also run as well. So basically, it's a platform for us to build capacity and really echo out young voices in the profession. There's a space for you in the International Federation of Surveyors, be it wherever you're from in the country, as we have different arms. We also have the FIG. We are also in different regions. We have the FIG African Regional Network. We have the Asia and the Pacific Regional Network. We have the American Regional Network. We also have the FIG. We also have the FIG European networks as well. So wherever you're joining in from, we have the FIG YSN network within your region. Now, I would like to go to the Volunteer Service Community Program,
Hello?
which is
Huh?
okay. Please, can you kindly mute? All right. So now I would now like to go to the Volunteer Service Community Program, which is an initiative of the Young FIG Young Service Network Program. Now, the VCSP is the action arm of the Young Surveyors Network, created together with FIG Foundation and other partners as well. Our mission basically is to Our mission is to transform the role of young surveyors in global development by enhancing and harnessing their skills and passion to address the world's most pressing humanitarian and environmental challenges. Now, our vision is by 2030, the VCSP, that's Volunteer Community Surveyors, will be recognized as the foremost global network of young surveyors who are dedicated to driving social change through diverse and impactful surveying projects. Our purpose basically is to empower and inspire the next generation of surveyors to tackle the world's most urgent challenges. Now, that being said, we have various arms of the VCSP, the Wisdom Workshop, which we are all currently in. We have the in-country deployments. So we have incomplete deployment, which goes on in-country deployment arm or path rather. We also have the engagement team as well. Why am I saying all of this? I'm basically saying all of these because whatever arm of the VCSP, we all can participate in it. We also have the e-volunteering as well, which can volunteer online. Now, what are the Wisdoms Workshop? The Wisdoms Workshop is a special VCSP platform to share knowledge across generations and borders. In today's case, it's about embracing modern tools and techniques. Our goal is simple, to just ensure that surveyors, whether in the field, in academia, or in government, feels empowered to adapt, innovate, and lead with technology. So as we go through today's session, I'd like to invite us to not just listen, but also to reflect on how you personally can embrace these shifts in your own practice. And for those new to YSN or the VCSP, we welcome you to join us, be it as a volunteer, as a mentor, as a partner, We're always looking forward to have you on board. Together, we can ensure the surveying profession not only keeps pace with technological change, but actually leads it. Thank you very much again, Letwin, and I wish us all a very insightful session. Back to you, Letwin.
Thank you so much, Inge. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction about the VCSP and FIG. And maybe I'll just echo that everyone is welcome as long as your age range is within within the range that Angie mentioned. Please, you're welcome. We are a big community, a very welcoming community. So thank you, everybody, and thank you so much, Angie, for that. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, we're going to have an introduction of our speakers today. Like I mentioned, this is our first episode of the Techtonic Shifts, and today we are glad to have partnered with Esri for this event. So we're going to have an introduction of our speakers from one of my teammates, who is Adesina. So he will introduce our speakers for the day. Over to you, Adesina.
Good day, everyone. So I'll be introducing the first speaker. We have two speakers today, so I'll be introducing the first speaker. And our first speaker is Lauren Hines. She's a senior business development management in Africa. Like she works in Esri and she manages Africa Geospatial. She joined Esri in 2011, and since 2020, she has been working across the public, private, and non-profit sector to help Esri Africa user community leverage GIS to address environmental and socio-economic challenges. With a focus on agriculture and food security, she has over 2 decades experience applying geospatial technology to complex natural resources challenges. Please, let's welcome Lauren Ernest with her reaction. So our second speaker, she is Pauline Okeyo. She's a GIS professional with 15 years of experience, currently serving as senior solution engineer at Esri for the Central Asia, Middle East, and African region, where she is helping organizations applying GIS solutions to address business challenges and advance sustainable development goals. Prior to joining Esri, Pauline was responsible for the training and services portfolio across 5 countries and as a professional service manager at Esri Eastern Africa too. So let's welcome Pauline Okeyo, our second speaker. Guest chair. Okay, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adesina, for the welcome of our speakers and their introductions. And I am going to stop talking now, and the voices that you're going to hear after I keep quiet the voices of our distinguished guest speakers. So over to you, Lauren and Pauline. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ledwin. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. I hope that goes well. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah, all going good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Alcina, for the introduction. And thank you, Ledwin and Angela, for inviting us and the FIG Young Surveyors Network. And thank you all for joining. So no further introduction needed. I'm Lorian, and it's really an honor to kick off this Techtonic Shift session. And as a geologist, I really like the title of this program that you are putting on, Ledwin. So in today's webinar, we will explore some of the latest advancements and capabilities of Esri's ArcGIS system, and how this system can help support you in your work. So we talk a bit about changes in licensing that might be relevant to some of you who have been using Esri technology for a while, also ways that you can actually access licenses, and we'll also leave you with some resources to advance your geospatial journey. I believe that this webinar is recorded, so I think, as you said, Ledwin, if there's any questions, maybe we can take them at the end. Please type them in the chat. I'll start off with a couple of slides, and then I'll hand over to Pauline, who will take us through the exciting stuff. So just a little bit of background. So I believe with this audience here of surveyors and other people in geomatics, I think it's safe to say that geography and maps and GIS play a crucial role in the work that you do on a daily basis. And that the combined work that you do touches on all the challenges that we are facing today with climate change, with access to electricity, broadband, water, biodiversity loss, which are the main ones, but there's many, many more. So for us, GIS is more than just making maps. It's about understanding complex spatial relationships, making data-driven decisions, communicate insights visually and interactively. And it's also about systems thinking, understanding how geography connects to environment, to social and economic problems and systems. So at Esri, we've been developing GIS technology since 1969. And ArcGIS, our product, is currently being used around the world by over 700,000 organizations. And these industry standard tools are used in government, in business, and in research. And organizations use it for all sorts of things: location intelligence, understanding where their customers are, for asset management, for land management, to increase operational efficiency or optimize maintenance schedules, or to perform things like change detection, create land cover maps, and many, many more. And one of our commitments to our users is to continue to advance the technology, to leverage and integrate innovations that we see across the industry, innovations in 3D mapping, in imagery, in analytics and AI. And so Pauline today will take us through some of this. And with these advancements that we're seeing in the technology, we also have recognized that there are some necessary changes that are needed to the core architecture of our technology. So over the years, there's been many changes, and we've come a long way since we started in 1969 to the modern GIS that we have today. So this started with ArcGIS Desktop, or what you might know as ArcMap, which was released in 1999, all the way to the introduction to ArcGIS Online in 2012, to the first release of ArcGIS Pro in 2015, and to the complex platform that we have today with all its richness and capabilities, including big data management, and now also integration with AI models and AI agents. So in August 2020, Esri announced the retirement of ArcMap and began to encourage customers to migrate to our new flagship product called ArcGIS Pro, which was released actually in 2015, quite a long time ago. ArcGIS Desktop entered mature support in 2024 and will officially retire in 2026. And the whole reason I'm bringing this to your attention is that this might be relevant to some of you who are already using the technology and might want to know, how you can now start accessing the new modern GIS platform. So we have fundamentally shifted how the capabilities of ArcGIS are delivered and accessed. And the new way is to access the capabilities and applications through what we call role-based user types. So if you previously were a ArcMap advanced user, you might now need to have a license for what we call the user type ArcGIS Professional Plus, which gives you access to ArcGIS Pro Advanced and all its extensions. So all in all, there's been a big shift, but these 6 new user types: viewer, contributor, mobile worker, creator, professional, and Professional Plus, will give you access in a different way to all the capabilities and products that Esri has. So with that, I just wanted to stop here, and we'll hand over to Pauline, and we'll come back to some further announcements in relation to licensing, how to get access to licenses, and some resources at the end of this webinar. So please let me stop sharing and hand over Pauline to take us through some of the technology.
Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Lauren, for that introduction. So, as Lauren mentioned, and as Letwin had also mentioned, today's session we want to focus on capabilities we have within ArcGIS, specifically the desktop application, that's ArcGIS Pro. There are many capabilities that have been embedded in the system at different levels, and unfortunately, today we only have an allocated time, so we can't go into everything. But I think we'll just focus today's session, not only just on Pro, but
a recent column. So the
okay, let me proceed. So we'll also be looking at what we have with imagery within ArcGIS Pro. So we're looking at visualization, some of the imagery workflows that have been enabled using wizards and modelers, and finally a bit of analysis within Pro when it comes to imagery. So if you'd like to learn more about our capabilities, you can access this information on our site. As you can see, for ArcGIS, we support different kinds of capabilities when it comes to working with spatial data. Also from our site, we have provided a lot of documentation. If you're looking at specific topics or products and so on, you can access that information. If you're not able to trace this information, you can use some of the AI assistants that have been embedded on the site to collate this information based on the questions you have, or you can filter it by a specific topic. So this makes it easier for you to search for information you need regarding ArcGIS capabilities that we have embedded on different products. Also, before I proceed, I'd like to highlight a key component that we have within ArcGIS, and that's infusion of content that's been made available through Esri's collaboration with other agencies. So we have a collection of geographic information thanks to our efforts as well as other authoritative sources where we support them in availing important information. This information can be accessible as ready-to-use applications or available as content that you can view, that you can analyze, or you can use as tools within your work, as you'll be able to see later. So if you're looking at the ready-to-use applications, like which we have within the Living Atlas of the World, that's the collection of geographic information. We have different apps that you can use to get insights immediately without having to go and manipulate data by yourself. We understand that sometimes you have critical decisions that need to be made, and you don't need to go through the entire process of coming up with an output. So this makes it easier for you to get these insights and make use of them. So an example of these applications, we have the Landsat Explorer, and it accesses the entire catalog of Landsat imagery from NASA. And from that point, you're able to explore the imagery that you're interested in, apply renderers, do a bit of analysis, and so on. So just to quickly showcase that, even though this is not our main aspect of our session today, if you open the Explorer, you can navigate to any location you're interested in just by searching here. In this case, I have a city which is to the northeast side of Nigeria. From here, I have it being rendered in natural color, and through exploration, I can find a specific scene that I'd be interested in, which is basically what's being rendered there. And I can see from July 2024, that's exactly how the city looked like as was captured by the sensor. I can change my renderer into any option, such as focusing on moisture, And if I do that, you'll see that places that actually had water have a different color, and other places that didn't have water appear differently. Again, with exploration, it's possible to change different settings such as cloud cover to filter and only have the ones that meet a particular criteria. I can also do comparisons by swiping between two different time periods. So if I had my July there and going back to September again in the same location, making sure that it's the same renderer, I can do my comparison between the two periods. And you'll see in the area, there's a slight difference in terms of the water index. This is because this dam actually, it had burst its banks and the water had flowed into the city, and it had a huge devastating effect there. I can still do my analysis, such as change detection between the two periods. And for my change detection, I'd like to focus on water index and look at places where we had an increase in water. So according to the current extent, we have about 69 square kilometers. This information, I can share it as it is with the link, or I can create an imagery layer that I can use within the ArcGIS system, that's within Pro or outside, and so on. Also in Living Atlas, we have access to different kinds of content that you can use within the system. So you can access other imagery, other layers, and so on. So what I'll be using in the demo here, basically, it's some data I've gotten from Living Atlas of the World. So let's just switch on to Pro. ArcGIS Pro, which I'm hoping many of you have gotten the chance to interact with it, but in case you haven't, this is the premium desktop application for working with geographic information. It's quite advanced. It has huge capacity for working with different kinds of data. We have about 2,000 different geoprocessing tools available for you to do analysis. And it provides a seamless ability of bringing in data from the web, either from within ArcGIS system on the Living Atlas or any other sources you have. In addition to that, you can seamlessly push information from Pro onto the web, publishing different layers for use on mobile devices, web browsers, and so on. So Pro's interface, we have the contents pane where we are able to add different layers to visualize information. As you can see on my contents pane, I have a layer, and also I have a base map. So the base map provides context of the area, and my layer, I've just visualized it to show specific information on national parks in Denver. And this is in the US. Pro provides a contextual menu whereby, based on what I'm interested in doing, I have the different tabs appear on my ribbon that allow me to focus on what I'm interested in doing, as well as the type of data set I have. So for my layer here, once it's selected, you can see I have additional tabs on the ribbon that allow me to change the appearance of the layer, apply labels, as well as manipulate the data. I can also add data from different sources and bring it in for visualization. And in addition to that, if I'm interested in making connections to the cloud, because many of you right now might be having access to data on the cloud, you can still make those connections from native ArcGIS servers as well as other sources such as OGC. Also, as I had showed previously, we can tap into the imagery from sources such as NASA, European Space Agency, and so on. But if you want to also use those specific scenes directly, you can still tap into them by creating a stack connection.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome.
So back to focusing on imagery within Pro. We have different things that can now be supported. So I'll be touching on things that have been released recently. Enhancements have been made recently. And these are capabilities that were previously not available with ArcMap, but are now available within Pro. So one of the formats that we are now supporting within Pro is OGC tiles. So if I just navigate here to Red Rocks Amphitheater, I can add an OGC tile, which I'll just 3D tile, which I'll just add to the current map. And you'll find that some of these data formats are available from other sources, and we can easily visualize them within Pro. Let me just try to add this again. I think there's a bit of a lag time with my Pro because I have loaded so many things. Okay, I think it's because there are many things right now on my browser, so this is causing a bit of a problem. Okay, so we're able to add 3D tiles and be able to visualize this information. In addition to that, we have tools that allow us to quickly perform exploratory 3D analysis. So for example, it's possible to create an elevation profile for my particular area, just showing that for that section, as well as being able to perform a line of sight. So if I'm looking at the amphitheater and I want to focus on places that will be visible from the bottom here, I can click on different locations, and it's possible to see that if we place seating or anything is placed at that point, we will not have line of sight from those different sections. Another thing that's being supported within Pro are oriented imagery. So obviously we know that imagery you can capture from different angles. And in this case, if you have the sensor that's collecting the imagery that's front facing, like a phone, it's possible to capture this information, and now it's natively supported within Pro. So if I click here on the oriented imagery tab, I can explore the different imagery. So let me just open this here. And if I click on a specific location, here in the map, you'll see it's loading for me the exact image or the exact photo as can be seen on that point. Also, I can use the navigation button here to see that if I click on different photos that were taken at different points, it's showing me still that location that I clicked on the map. And the red section here corresponds to the red section also here, showing me which direction the photo is facing. So you can see that if we use a combination of images or photos from phones, from satellite imagery and other sources, we can get useful ways of visualizing information. Also, something that is that's supported within Pro is the ability to work with voxel layers. So if I had my fire situation here, this is still within the same area, and there's a fire that took place, and samples were taken of the air. So this is carbon dioxide. I can use a 3D voxel to visualize this information as volumes. I can also slice through this information. So let me just select that. I can also slice through the information to see it at different points, as well as look at the surfaces and filter only the areas that have carbon dioxide. So those are just some of the things that have come in terms of working with forms of imagery or raster types of data within Pro that are recent. So that's mainly on visualization, that is looking at different kinds of images and being able to work with it. As I mentioned, let me just also highlight before I move from this section. Also within the catalog, it's possible to access the Living Atlas that has different kinds of raster datasets, including imagery that you can add into your Pro scene, that is the 3D view, which I've been looking at here, and which can be looked at together with your 2D maps to try and get insights on different kinds of things and so on. So you can add information seamlessly within Pro and be able to use it either in 3D or 2D. So other than that, we have analysis that is enabled. When you're working with imagery or raster datasets, you can use different ways of applying analysis to derive insights. So first, before I get to the tools, I'd like to focus on some of the workflows that have been enabled using wizards or modelers available within ArcGIS Pro. We've already looked at exploratory 3D analysis, but I'd like for us to look at two others that we have. That's the suitability modeler and a simulation tool for flooding. If we look at the modeler, I'd like us to focus on data sets again I got from the Living Atlas. So we have data that I've just brought into my Pro. Again, for this to be added, there are many ways. I can add data from this section, or I can use my catalog pane here to navigate to the portal and focus on Living Atlas. So I have my protected areas here that I've brought in. This is a data set available on Living Atlas that has globally all the protected areas. So these are national parks, national reserves, marine reserves and parks, and so on. We have the global terrestrial richness and rarity layer. Again, that's available on Living Atlas. And this comes from Half Earth project that again is a collaboration by many conservation organizations where they've brought this data within, let me just zoom in a bit so that it loads quickly, within ArcGIS. So as you can see, it's loading, and the kind of symbology that's been used here, it's multivariate symbology, whereby we're looking at two variables and how their intersection affects the display, basically. We also have another layer, that's the world distance to water, and this comes from USGS, that's the US Geological Society, European Space Agency, and so on. And in this case, we have the blue indicates places where there's water, light green, they're considerably close to water, and where we have yellow, they're far from water. We have the world cover land cover dataset, which is a collaboration between European Space Agency and the World Cover Consortium, whereby we have global classification of land cover, and we're able to see based on these classes what the land cover is. And finally, we have a derived data set, again, made available by Esri, that's looking at vulnerability to change by 2050 as a result of climate change or activities that lead to climate change, whereby yellow areas are more vulnerable, dark purple areas are less vulnerable at this time to change as a result of that. So if I just focus this on Kenya, again, I've just filtered this information. And I used tools within ArcGIS Pro to get that information. So you can use some of the tools to just filter out or clip out the area that you are interested in. So just coming to the suitability modeler, once you click on that, it launches the modeler itself. And you can begin by just giving it a name and coming in to set the properties, where in this case, I'd like to select my parameters and add the different layers there. So I'll just switch this off. And then we can start the process of using the modeler. So in this case, I want to begin with trying to identify areas within Kenya that will be suited to be added towards conservation. So right now there's a global UN initiative whereby we want to make sure that all countries across the world meet a target of 30% of a country's extent is under conservation. So in Kenya, as at now, it's about, I believe, about 20%. So they're looking for an extra 10% to go under conservation. And that's why previously I had a combination of layers whereby we're trying to see where do we have a place that has a suitable level of species rarity. That is, many rare species at one location, species richness, diversity in species in one point, not too far from water, not in what you call it, like we don't want it to be in agricultural land, we don't want it to be in urban areas, and also less likely to be affected by climate change. So if we look at all those variables, we want to find the most suited location for conservation, which will add to conservation. So just drawing first back to this one, let me highlight that. Let me just zoom here to Kenya. So Kenya right now, we have the different areas that are conserved, and we're looking for additional areas to make sure Kenya reaches the requirement of 30% of the total of Kenya is actually under conservation. So we'll start with distance to water, which I'd like to transform. Once I click on it, it opens the transform pane. I'll just switch this off so that we only have the layer that we're looking at. I'll minimize this here and try to minimize it again, maybe zoom out a bit. So please, could the moderators stop annotation for other people? Thank you. So with the transform pane, what we have by default is range of classes, but I can have it as continuous, whereby the green areas are preferred and the red areas are least preferred. The second option we have is the second layer I'd like to consider is rarity, whereby if I check that, please, moderators of the call, please stop annotation for other people.
Needs.
So for rarity, again, we'd like to have preference whereby the most rare species are indicated. And I'll go to richness. Whereby we're looking at continuous function. Sorry, we're looking at range of classes. I believe also for rarity should be so for rarity should be range of classes. Richness should also be range of classes, and vulnerability we'll also be looking at the range of classes, whereby we want the focus on the areas that is most preferred in this section. So when it comes to land cover, what we had on land cover wasn't values of range of classes, but we had class names. And as I mentioned, out of a scale of 1 to 10, as you can see from most suitable to least suitable, I want us to focus on areas that are most suitable, which will be ranking here, or the preferred sections for conservation. So I'm just rearranging these to be in a particular order, whereby the least preferred sections definitely are going to be croplands and built up areas. So I'll give them lower values. And the final one I'll have here as 3. So basically, as it is right now, the most suitable places have a ranking of 10, the least suitable places have lower rankings. And once that is done, I will have my preferred sections whereby I can see areas that would fit the criteria of suitability for conservation. So once I load the final layer where I had these different parameters, I had my rarity, richness, water, land cover, vulnerability. I used the transform pane to see which ways I can transform or change the appearance of this data on the fly without running analysis outright. So I'm using the wizard or the suitability modeler to guide me through the process and visualize this information on the fly without having to run the tool. So once I have that ready, I can run this and get the output. So this just allows me to visualize what this would look like. So you can see once we have this information, it's available in a raster format. I'm able to use the workflows, such as being able to do suitability analysis to get my preferred area. And beyond that, within the modeler, we can use the locate function to only filter this information, whereby we are saying of all the places that we are going to get, because we are getting different options here in different areas. So we can say we need to exclude already existing protected areas, and we also need for them to be adjacent to existing protected areas. So at the end of all of that, we're going to get our suited locations, which are being indicated there. So one of the criteria that I had placed was that for each location, it needs to be a particular size and it needs to be adjacent to an existing protected area. And that's how you have it as your result for suitability analysis, which can be used. Other than suitability analysis, we have flood simulation. So in this case, we are looking at a city in the US. It's called Stanwood. And in this particular place where it's located, it faces different risks of water. So this could be flooding from rainfall. This could be increased river flow. And also, unfortunately, sea level rise as a result of many things, including climate change. So for this particular city, I'm using 2 important layers that I've gotten from Living Atlas as a guide, just to show me or to give me a sense of the changes taking place. The first one is these 3D buildings that I have here, which are from Living Atlas. That's available free to use within ArcGIS. And I'm using the elevation layer from Living Atlas. So for me to do flood simulation, an important consideration is the elevation, the terrain, knowing places where water is likely to accumulate and so on. So to be able to do that, if I come on analysis, I click on simulation, it loads for me the different ways to do my simulation. So I'll just come to the simulation tab here, and I'm starting with the aspect of rainfall. If I just zoom to one of the sections to help us look at this information properly. If I click on this tab, I can run my simulation here and be able to see the results. So with the simulator, it allows us to simulate rain, as here we are looking at rainfall, and then we are able to see how water accumulates over time. Also with the flood simulator within ArcGIS Pro, another thing we're able to do is look at if we had the options of mitigation. So for example, if I added a drainage and a barrier, and then I run this simulation again, it should be possible to see what would be the effect of that. Oops, yeah. So that's just running a bit, and we can see that if we run the simulation again, because I've added a barrier and I've put here a drainage channel, it's reducing the influx or the water that would be flowing to this section, and much of that water is now being directed elsewhere. So this prevents any flooding, extended flooding to other parts of the city or other parts of the town and so on. Another thing that's possible is being able to export this simulation. So I can export this information either as the water depth, the absolute height, or the velocity of the rainfall as it's moving. And I can look at it in 2D again. And if I do any different kind of comparison, here, as you can see for that same section where I added a barrier, I can click on any section and the pop-up at any time will show me what the flow was. So you can see when it was a lot, it was about, when it was a bit less, it was about 0.4. And if I step at different times, let me just step forward. Okay, let me step back. So if I step through different types and I click on the same location, you'll see that the value keeps on changing based on that information. And again, this information, I can publish it onto my online section. And once I publish it, I can create an application that allows me to visualize this information, whereby if we looked at what the area looked like before we added a barrier and after, we can see the kind of effect it has on the stream flow. So what this is doing is it's allowing us to be able to visualize this information by rendering. So we are not running any active analysis, but you're trying to see as a preventive measure, what would be the effect of rainfall within this particular place. And if we took any mitigative measures, such as add a barrier, a drainage kind of, and so on, what will be the effect of that? And again, this information can be pushed online, and you can share this widely for people to get a sense of the effects of this kind of practice. Sorry, let me just get back to that. So those are some of the workflows that are enabled, ready for use. The examples I'm giving, they're available as lessons within our platform that you can try out and see how to make use of them. So beyond that, we have a number of tools or geoprocessing tools within ArcGIS that you can use to do analysis when it comes to working with imagery. A lot of those tools are available within our image analyst tool box. And within that, we have different tool sets that allow us to perform different functions. We have change detection, which is similar to what I showed previously on the Landsat Explorer. We have a bit of GeoAI or machine learning, deep learning, and many other things that you can do when it comes to working with imagery. So that's managing imagery, doing analysis, deriving insights, or extracting information, and so on. So the first example I'd like for us to look at is the example of working with spatial temporal data. This is an example I had shown previously to YSN members, which I'll just walk through quickly. So if you have multi-dimensional data sets whereby you have the X and the Y, then you have the additional dimension of time, you're able to visualize this within ArcGIS Pro. This is a native data format that's supported within ArcGIS Pro. And how it is basically, if I use my time slider there, you can see changes over time. If I click on the data set, you can see it's multidimensional. I can navigate to any timestamp that I'd be interested in. Another thing I can do within Pro when it comes to working with imagery is I can do a bit of data engineering, where I can use a chart to do comparisons of different locations. So in this case, let me just zoom to Europe, where I was able to do a comparison of 3 different countries. So we have the UK, we have Norway, and we have Italy. So if I do the comparisons, let me just try and see if I can put it as that. I think it's cost. Okay. So if you look at the 3 different countries, you can see that for my data set, which is on pollution. So this is particulate matter of pollution, whereby it's a global standard used to look at the rate of pollution across board. And we look at these values within Europe for the 3 different countries. Then we can see that in the first case of Italy, the values, this being Italy, the values are quite high, but the values of UK and Norway are a bit lower compared to Italy. But you can see also there's a general spike in 2014 for these countries, but also good to see that over time, I guess through many mitigative measures, for the UK, it tends to be going a bit lower. And also for Norway, it tends to be a bit flat. So we are just using tools within ArcGIS Pro to help us try and examine and understand the information that we have. That is the multidimensional data set, to see what are the ranging values if you're looking at areas such as countries or any other administrative area. So for my spatial temporal analysis, we have a toolbox here with different tool sets that allow us to create space-time cubes, visualize them, do a bit of analysis. And in the analysis case here, we're looking at emerging hotspot analysis, being able to perform time series clustering, as well as forecasting if needed. So for my particular data set, if I'm interested in emerging hotspots, I'll just come to my extent here. I can run the emerging hotspot analysis tool, whereby I've added my data set and I've specified some different parameters where I get my output. So as it is, when you're looking at globally, places where we have pollution, we have a key here or a legend that just gives us a guideline on how to interpret this information. So generally, you'll see for Southeast Asia, it tends to have a lot of persistent hotspots and intensifying hotspots. Persistent hotspots means that over the 20 years of looking at this particular area, it has always had high pollution rates. Intensifying means that it has always been high over the 20 years, but it keeps on growing higher. And also for cold spots, you'll see that there are places that are sporadic cold spots, diminishing hotspots, persistent cold spots, and so on, meaning that the value of pollution recorded there, it's significantly lower. And then obviously we have areas where it's no pattern detected over the 20 years that you're looking at this information. So with that, looking at the space, that particular location and time as an additional level of doing the analysis, we're able to identify places that we have increased pollution, places where it's going down, and so on. So other than looking at it in 2D, we can look at this information in 3 dimensions. So I was able to load this in 3 dimensions. How I did that is once in 3D in my scene, I can load a space-time cube layer and visualize that information as it is. Using my contextual tab here for space-time cube, I can configure my extent and just say that I'm only interested in looking at Ethiopia, which will filter my display based on that. And if I just tilt my scene here, then I'm able to see in different parts of Ethiopia, based on different locations where we have the hotspots, where we have non-significant areas, and so on. With my space-time cube layer also on the fly, I'm able to identify or change my visualization or my display based on hotspot type. So hotspots appear to have dark red colors and cold spots appear to have darker blue colors, sorry. Non-significant sections have the gray color. And this just makes it easier to work with spatial temporal data sets, be able to visualize and get an understanding on how changes of different variables over time can be looked at or can be visualized based on specific timestamps. So that's a kind of analysis that you can do with imagery within ArcGIS. And as you saw that, we are able to visualize this, but still we have the ability to forecast this information. A lot of the forecasting is being powered by deep learning tools or machine learning tools we have within ArcGIS. So the last demonstration I have is when it comes to machine learning. So I believe all of you by now have come across GeoAI, whereby we are looking at how do we apply artificial intelligence and task ArcGIS Pro, specifically in this case, to go through images that we have and be able to classify information, detect and extract information, and so on. So within ArcGIS, we have tools that allow us to be able to do this. Within my image analyst tools, I have my deep learning toolset. At this point, I'm able to classify. So if I wanted to look at an image and try to tell the difference between 2 kinds of land cover, I can use that. I can try to detect change between 2 images, and I can try to detect objects and get information from imagery. So this is usually guided by models that we have within ArcGIS or models that you can bring in. And again, this can be classified in 2 ways. I can use computer vision capabilities whereby I'm tasking Pro to just look at the image and extract the information I need. Or I can go through the entire process of machine learning within Pro, whereby I train my data set, I capture my training data sets. I train Pro that this is how you identify something. Then I task it to run through my entire image and get that information. And again, a lot of those models are found within Living Atlas. So just coming back to Living Atlas, here, I can be able to filter my display and focus on deep learning packages. In this case, we have deep learning packages or pre-trained models made available by Esri that you can use immediately within ArcGIS, or specifically ArcGIS Pro or ArcGIS Online, to be able to extract your information. So for each deep learning package or model, if you click on it, you're able to get important information. So first, you get a guide that gives you step-by-step breakdown on how to use the model. In addition to that, it gives you the requirements, because all these models have been trained based on a specific requirement, but you can still fine-tune your model to get specific information or to work on your specific imagery resolution and so on. And also an important thing is the model architecture, because you'll find that sometimes you would like to use a specific architecture for your model to extract information. So for most of our models, they're coming in from open libraries. In this case, you can see this is the segment anything model from Meta that's being used. So just coming back to Pro, I have here a satellite image, a drone image for Copenhagen, whereby we have different boats, and I'd like to task Pro to extract the boats that are here. So to do that, I'll just open the tool that I'd run before. So I'm using the Detect Objects Deep Learning tool to task Pro to extract for me the boats. So I will put a text prompt of boat. This is the text sum, meaning that we can use text prompts, and we are telling Pro, look at the image and look for boats and extract this information. And then we can add other parameters such as the NMS overlap, meaning that if Pro looks at the boats here and it's able to extract like this boat maybe 4 times, it's going to compare the 4 outputs and select the best one and retain that one. And many other parameters you can specify. Again, I can specify things as my extent. In this case, I only want the current extent, the cell size for my output, and the processor type that I'd like to use. Once that is done, I can click run. This would not take a long time, but I can see also we've run out of the time we had. So I was able to run this before, and you can see that it did its best to extract the boats. But also, it has gone ahead to extract a car as a boat and other sections, like I think here another car. So some of the things you can do is continue changing the parameters here so that your model gets more and more fine-tuned to be able to extract this information accurately. You can still fine-tune your model as it is through other measures to be able to extract more accurate information other than changing the arguments. There's still other ways you can fine-tune your model based on your image or based on your current extent to extract the right information. So just to summarize, we have looked at how ArcGIS Pro has many capabilities that have been coming in or streaming in over the last few releases that support working with imagery to be able to visualize information, to be able to apply different workflows that allow us to analyze and render information on the fly, such as the suitability model that we looked at, and the flood simulation that we looked at. And then we finally looked at how we have tools within ArcGIS Pro that support analysis. So we look at the example of space-time or spatial temporal data sets, and obviously this one for AI, whereby we used a pre-trained model within ArcGIS, a drone image for Copenhagen, and we're able to extract both as per the arguments that were there by default. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Lorien to help with the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pauline, for this really great demonstration and showing some of the things that are new to me too. There's always something new. Thank you so much. So before we go to Q&A, I just wanted to share one or two other things. And meanwhile, please, if you have questions, put them in the chat so we can go through that next. Let me please share. Let me just see if I can share my screen again. Okay. Can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, Lorien.
Thank you. So a couple of other points I wanted to share, as I had said earlier. I'm not sure how many people on this group on the call right now are existing Esri users, but if you are an existing Esri user, I'd like to remind you that if you're using ArcMap, it's retiring and support will end in March next year. If you haven't already done so, I would encourage you to transition to ArcGIS Pro. And obviously, if you have an existing perpetual ArcMap license, you can, of course, continue to use that endlessly. However, the technology has changed substantially, as Pauline has shown with her demos today, since we stopped development of ArcMap in 2020. So if that's the case and you want to migrate and you have a license, please reach out to your local Esri office. They will, can walk you through all the options that you have. Now, lastly, I also wanted to make you aware that there is, if you don't use Esri technology right now, there's options where you can get access to licenses. If you're working in education, conservation, then we have programs that can help support you specifically for those sectors in obtaining licenses to do your work. Also, in case of a natural disaster, people can always reach out to us to help them with some technology. We also have specific programs for licensing for non-profit organizations and some eligible government agencies, specifically in African countries, in relation to land administration, production mapping, and disaster risk reduction. So for members of the FIG Young Surveyors Network, we actually have licenses available, Esri licenses, as part of a initiative where we provide licenses to FIG members. So if this is of interest to you, I believe it is Angela that you need to reach out to. I hope Angela can confirm that. And otherwise, we can get the right contact for you that you can reach out to get access to licenses specifically for FIG members, for you to be able to update yourself on the technology and progress in your geospatial capabilities. Lastly, there is personal use licenses to keep yourself up to date. These are licenses where you can get access to a license for development, for your own development, to test out and to use or learn lessons and tutorials to bring yourself up to speed or to increase your knowledge of the technology. And lastly, there's Africa GeoPortal, and I hope many of you are familiar with Africa GeoPortal, which is our community GIS platform where we have data, all the data from the Living Atlas that Pauline showed some of this off, as well as some of basic mapping tools in ArcGIS Online, and where you can get started using the technology or that you can utilize for community work. Lastly, I wanted to highlight that obviously there is many other ways to get up to speed with technology through our MOOCs that we're running, the massive open online courses. As you see here on the slide, there's a couple actually running fairly soon that you can sign yourself up for. It's totally free. You'll get access to the technology for the duration of those courses. It's a great way to browse up on your technology capabilities in relation to Esri and learn something new. Obviously, we also have hundreds of free courses and tutorials that you can make use of. And other than that, we provide technical support for Esri users in case you are getting stuck, as well as many, many events where you can share your experiences with your peers. And obviously, lastly, there's the GIS Day in November this year. I'm hoping that many of you are involved in a GIS Day locally, somewhere in where you are. And if you're interested in running one, please reach out to us. So that was what I wanted to share. So please, let's go to the questions. And I saw a couple of them come in already. And hoping that between the two of us, we can answer as many questions as possible. And I still believe we have some time. Is that correct, Letwin?
Yes, Lauren. We still have time allocated for questions and answers, so you can carry on with it. I think someone
Thank you.
supposed to help with the coordination of the questions and answer.
Okay, please.
So yeah, hi, I will be sharing the questions to you. We have got two questions from our audiences. So the first question is from Melissa, that is, given that ArcGIS offers a wide range of applications and open source data sets are now available online, do you have any tips or recommendations for someone who wants to continuously upskill and broaden their expertise in the geospatial industry?
Yes, let me do that one. So absolutely. So as I mentioned, there's a couple of different ways. You can sign up for a massive open online course, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And that will give you a very, very interesting materials that you can run through, depending on what you're interested in. There's one on cartography, actually starting next week, I believe. And there's always MOOCs going on that you can sign up for. So that's one avenue. The other avenue is that you can have a look at Africa Geoportal. Africa Geoportal is a platform you can sign up for, and you can get access to many, many tutorials that you can use to run through in your own pace. And Africa Geoportal will give you access to practice online.
Èmi ò mọ̀ ìgbà tó ń sọ pé 5.
And yeah, so that was I hope that answered Melissa's question.
Thank you, Lauren. Another question is, how different are ArcGIS and QGIS? For the software demonstrated today, how does access to maps and functions like 3D views compare in regions like Africa?
Pauline, is that a question you want to answer?
Yes.
So ọ wá pè mí wà nípa ṣé níbo mo wà pé kìíní wọn ní mo wà ní
Maybe, okay, thank you to the person who has muted that. In terms of how different, but definitely we have many applications that are out there in terms of being able to work with geographic information, location data, spatial data, and so on. I think one of the really good things we have with ArcGIS, Rugare, is that you saw that we already have data that we've made available. We have made available that you can use immediately within ArcGIS. So that's data from Esri, from other Esri users in various formats that's available. And other than using ArcGIS Pro, going to the web, it's very seamless. So once you do your analysis, you visualize your data and so on, you're able to create web maps. All of this is put together into one system. The system has different components that allow you to be able to manage and work with your data to come up with meaningful insights. So I think that's one of the main advantages we have, that it is one system with very many capabilities that have been embedded in it, making it easier to move from the point of getting your data, analyzing, visualizing, and sharing it out for use. In terms of access to maps and 3D, so again, this is available across board. And these are global data sets. Like I think some of the ones which probably didn't render so easily. So we have a lot of this information available through the Living Yet Atlas at a global scale. Now, when it is available at a global scale, it means that the resolution or the level of detail might not be very high at this moment, but it's still usable for visualization and analysis to a certain point. Beyond that, I think one of the fantastic things we are looking forward to in the next few months is we'll be bringing in other 3D visualizations into ArcGIS. I believe one that we have announced and will soon be coming out are the Google 3D tiles. So that also gives you that photorealistic view of the world, and it will be available within ArcGIS for you to use. So just to summarize, it's a global data set. It's available freely for use. The thing is just that the resolution might not be up to the level of detail that you might have wanted, but it's still something that you can use for your analysis at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pauline. And we have got another question for you as well. You consider rainfall and elevation as factors for flood. Soil type is also an important factor for flood mapping. We have another factors too, but soil type is important as rainfall and elevation. Or is rainfall and elevation suffice for flooding? So this was the question.
Thank you so much for the question, Surveyor Alaran. Yes, very correct. Many things go into defining the flooding. So what I had shown previously was an example of a flood simulation tool. So what a simulation tool does is it allows us to be able to model or to be able to try and imitate that. If we are looking at rainfall or river overflow or sea level rise, just based on elevation, what kind of effect will be experienced at this point. So it's just for trying to imitate or simulate a particular situation. It's using, I believe it's a hydrology model, if I'm not wrong for this, but it's just for, it's not to give you like, this is the final output, but just to give you a sense of, ideally, if we had one of those three scenarios, what would be the impact? So obviously, if you want to be more accurate, then that's where we have the modeler that I'd shown, whereby you're going to add these different factors that we have this much rainfall, and also this is the runoff or the evapotranspiration, for instance. This is the soil type that we have here. This is the elevation. This is the land use and all of those things. So when we put all of these parameters, we apply different weights, then where are we likely to find the places that would be severely affected by flooding and so on. So that's when we apply that kind of tool. And beyond that, we have a hydrology toolbox that has different tools that support advanced analysis for flooding. We have also a specific capability that comes through ArcHydro that also allows us to be more accurate with the output. So in this case, we're just trying to say, like, for the sake of, we want to visualize and have a sense that if this happened, who is likely to be affected or which areas are likely to be affected? I hope that response helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pauline. So we still have time for a few more questions. So if you have any questions to our speakers, please raise your hand. you can directly ask to our speakers the questions.
So I have a question. So can I go on?
Please.
Yes. Concerning this land use land cover classification, does ArcGIS Pro support the synchronization with Google Earth Pro when we're trying to crowd it out, maybe change detection for a particular year? And Google Earth Pro used to give us like the data for that year. Let's say now this is 2025, and we're trying to trying to create a training sample for 2015. And we know ArcGIS, we know Google Earth support. Like Google Earth is going to give us the image of that particular year. So is there a way to sync ArcGIS Pro with Google Earth Pro to do this training sample?
Thank you, Man, for that question. So at this time, we have not done any integration between ArcGIS Pro and Google Earth Engine. We are part of similar initiatives when it comes to Geo AI or AI for Good. There are areas where we have come to collaborate. But as at now, we've not done any system integration. And I think from questions such as yours, probably this is something that other people are thinking and being explored. But as at this time, there's no integration. Yes. Maybe Lorian, you'd like to add something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, because depending on the use case that you're trying to solve and the training data, there might be other avenues where that could help you. Like, for example, the Sentinel-2 viewer that Pauline was showing could be of use potentially, and or the pre-trained deep learning models that can be adopted and fine-tuned that are available in the Living Atlas. So maybe it's worth having a look at that. I'm hoping that could help.
Oh, thank you for that.
Hey, thank you so much for such a great session. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, Lorraine, for the great presentations and insights on the Esri products. And I love the flood simulation thing. I don't know, it drives me crazy for some reason. So I love that more than anything else. Thank you so much. So I think I'm going to post the questions now, and in fact, I don't see any, so I think we should be good. Also, in the interest of our time, I'm going to ask David, who is also one of our colleagues, to give us a closing remark. Over to you, David.
Okay, thank you very much, Letwin, and distinguished colleagues and friends. As we bring this engaging section to a close, of course, it is clear that the tectonic shift we are witnessing in geospatial technology is more than a transformation of tools, and it is a redefinition of how we see, understand, and shape our world. And the X-ray experience that has been shared today by Pauline reminds us of that spatial and visual insights, that spatial and visual insights are no longer optional. They are now central to decision making, innovation, and sustainability. Our challenge and opportunity is to now embrace these changes with openness, collaboration, and purpose. As earlier mentioned by Lauren about the free licenses for the FIG YSN members, we're currently tightening up with the process, and more information about the assets will be communicated in due time. And at this point, I want to say on behalf of the FIG Voluntary Community Surveyors Program team, the VCSP, extend our gratitude to our speakers and participants, Lauren and Pauline. Thank you so much for your time. Pauline has been a very good friend all these while. She's done a lot of trainings with us. We appreciate every time you come, and we learn a lot from all that you share with us. We're grateful. And also participants, you've taken your time to also exchange ideas, ask questions. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for joining in. So let us carry forward the momentum, continue the conversation, and translate the insight into action. And thank you, and looking forward to a future we will build together. Thank you, and thank you, Letwin and team, for the beautiful work that has been done, especially those that were busy with turning off the mics. Thank you all for your contributions.
And thank you so much, Dee, and thank you everybody. And if you don't mind, you can kindly share your video before you jump off. I'll take a small group photo. Thank you so much. If I'll ask you, Dee, to do that. If any of you is comfortable, please just share your video. Let's just have a photo before you go. So over to you, Dee. I don't know if you want us to smile, if you want us to jump. We can't hear you, Dee. David, you are talking, but we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot. So I'm taking the photos now. We're not saying cheese. We're not saying anything.
We're saying Esri.
Okay, so we're saying Esri. So just 1 minute more. I just need to save the photo. I've taken the first one. I think we have more space here. So let me go to the other page. Yep. Okay. I'll be done shortly. Just one more shot. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We would add makeups to the photos, don't worry. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Pauline.
Lauren.
Yeah, thank you, Pauline.
And David.
And thank you, Lauren. Yeah.
Bye, Lauren. Bye, Pauline. Have a lovely day. Bye, everyone.